Ryomen Sukuna just hates Yuji Itadori, the king of curses and the most powerful sorcerer that has ever lived, just cannot accept this 15-year-old brat. And what's strange is how much it actually irritates him that Yuji keeps coming back. This dynamic between Yuji and Sukuna echoed all throughout the series, but now it's more clear than ever. Yuji is the eye of the storm of the new age. It is becoming more and more evident Yuji is special in more ways than just his physical strength, more than his cursed energy control or his aptitude for Jujutsu. However, his very existence itself is like a remnant of Sukuna himself. And strange enough, Sukuna gave us insight on how this took place, as the way Yuji was conceived is among the most dark and twisted in Jujutsu Kaisen. When Sukuna was still in his mother's womb long ago in the Golden Age, he was not alone, but Sukuna was conceived with a twin brother. In those days, life was harsh and the mortality rate was extremely high, so their mother was in a state of starvation. In order to survive, Sukuna had to consume his twin brother's body. Sukuna rejected his fate as a twin, and thus, this probably is why Sukuna looks like a four-armed, two-faced cannibal. And this story actually is in line with the in real life legend of Ryomen Sukuna. The soul of Sukuna's brother still transcended through time and in the modern era. Sukuna's other half incarnated as Jin Itadori. The mastermind Kinjaku took advantage of that, and he used Kaori Itadori's body to procreate and conceive Yuji. Since Kinjaku mixed his blood in, this means Yuji is half-brothers to the death paintings and also the offspring of Sukuna's soul and Kaori, a sorcerer who wields anti-gravity. Through these multiple factors, Yuji inherited immense strength as a vessel, and on his own will awaken into a monster. The world of Jujutsu does not treat twins as different when it comes to curse techniques. This means Yuji inherited Sukuna's shrine curse technique from Sukuna's other half, Jin Itadori. Right now, this modern shrine has just awakened inside of Yuji, so its curse technique output is low, and Yuji's use of shrine's cutting ability is more simple. Like Yuji imagines cutting things with scissors, much like a child would cut paper. And going even further, if you take into account all of Yuji's abilities, Yuji can interact with the soul. He can use blood manipulation, reverse curse technique, and even simple domain. Yuji's application of some of these abilities are very rough, but what's important is that he has them because they could be just enough for Sukuna. Even now, Yuji's body has never forgotten the time when Sukuna incarnated. The time within Yuji allowed Yuji's body to grow and perform Jujutsu at an exceedingly exceptional level. And now Yuji has been given the tools where he can potentially stand equal to the king. And Sukuna utterly hates the thought of Yuji trying to be on his level. Even when it comes to Yuji's soul, Sukuna cannot seem to break Yuji. His soul was like a cage, and even Sukuna admits that it is impossible to break an invincible soul. So right now, Sukuna will break Yuji another way. He wishes to shatter his ideals. Yuji's ideals are far beyond normal, but it's something Sukuna never truly understood because he was simply too great of an individual. But now Yuji stands before him with an ideal that surpasses himself. A cog willing to do anything to kill Sukuna and save his friend Megami's soul. Now that Yuji has the same curse technique as Sukuna, at least to some level, to some degree, Yuji should be able to do what Sukuna does at some point in time. Up to chapter 258, Sukuna has shown two aspects of shrine, dismantle and cleave, and the hellfire called furnace. With Sukuna, his slashes have high output, and he potentially can one-shot targets with a point-blank projectile dismantle, a touch from an adjusting cleave, or his most deadly world-bisecting dismantle. In Yuji's case, he still has so much more to learn about this power. However, I think that he'll pick up rather quickly as his body is now starting to awaken this curse technique engraved onto him. But at this point, even though the curse techniques are the same, there is a drastic difference in which the era that they stem from. So when Yuji imagines cutting, he's going to use scissors, and it seems Yuji has to touch whatever he targets in order to cut it. This situation is similar to Naobito's projection sorcery because that technique was born from a time when cameras operated, and then it evolved in the future with 24 FPS animation. If this shrine curse technique truly is more like a quote-unquote malevolent kitchen, then Yuji simply is using the tools and the technique of the modern era. Via wide, Yuji might imagine using culinary scissors. However, I think it's more so a dumbed down version of the cleave, because with both applications of this ability, the user has to touch the target to slash them. On the other hand, what about the Hellfire? When Sukuna chants "Open Furnace," he gains access to these flames that can be fired with extremely high output. If Yuji was to gain fire as well, instead of a furnace, would he use a modern appliance like an oven? If his purpose was to simply heat or burn things up, could he use gas or electricity? It's hard to tell how the era would influence Yuji's shrine. However, based on Sukuna's use of the fire and the rare times he actually used the ability on panel, it may actually be the case where it's a different extension of shrine that could be even harder for Yuji to master, considering he just learned this curse technique. Even the world slash is probably too advanced since Sukuna needed Maharaga to show him. However, there is no telling the limits that Yuji will reach in this fight. Itadori also learned Yuki's information on the soul by reading her book. So as a result of that, Yuji can interfere with the border between the soul and the body, and even progressively nerf Sukuna throughout the battle, steadily nerfing Sukuna's cursed energy output and his control over the vessel, which adversely hinders Sukuna's Jujutsu. By no means should this be overlooked, because this is the single greatest tool that the sorcerers used since Gojo died, and Yuji is probably the only reason that the sorcerers have made it this far in the fight. So you bet, through the means of the soul, that's likely how they will defeat Sukuna. Although Yuji has messy use of blood manipulation and still has not mastered convergence, it should be noted he is like his death painting brothers, meaning that he can use cursed energy to create blood, which takes this curse technique to the next level. Imagine if Yuji took advantage of flowing red scale to amp his physicals even greater than they already are. And blood manipulation makes it easier for Yuji to use reverse curse technique, and he can just as easily reattach limbs, which actually is a pretty amazing feat considering Yuji's healing speed is abnormally fast. There actually are 6 other death painting cursed wombs, and all of which were eaten by Yuji, and each one of them likely had a varied curse technique that derived from blood manipulation, just like Iso and Kechiso's decay curse technique. So while the chances are low, Yuji still has the possibility to grow even more with blood manipulation and use more of his brother's powers. However, Sukuna and Chozo don't have to be the only family members that he takes after. Yuji's mother, Kaori, was also a sorcerer that possessed anti-gravity. And while we did not see much of this curse technique, Kenjaku was still able to withstand an entire black hole using it. And using this ability in conjunction with hand-to-hand combat is extremely practical. But in reality, Yuji was just set up for absolute greatness. His mother is Kenjaku. His father is Sukuna's twin. He inherited blood manipulation from his brothers, and now Yuji has been trained by the strongest grade 1 in cursed energy enhancements, and also inherited simple domain to protect against domain expansion. Then add the fact Yuji can decisively hit you with 7 black flashes and shake you so hard you feel it in your soul. And Gege may have genuinely created a monster that's after Sukuna's throne. And while there's probably a lot of people that doubt Yuji's current capability or statements that he will surpass Sukuna, it's pretty much undeniable, at least to the current Sukuna that we are facing right now, he can be surpassed by Yuji as he is. In chapter 257, Yuji was completely unfazed by Sukuna's combination of slashes and strikes. Then Yuji continued to land 7 black flashes on him. In 258, Yuji was even able to withstand the output of Malevolent Shrine. Itadori has become a beast in his own right. Right now, the one thing that Yuji is missing that will completely change him as a sorcerer is a domain expansion. To be able to create a barrier, imbue it with one of his curse techniques. It could be blood manipulation, it could be something with the soul, it could be Malevolent Shrine, or even something entirely different. However, he needs something that would put him in control. Yuji needs to put Sukuna in a position where he is desperate for a way out, much like his recent battles with Yuta and Sukuna's desperate gamble with the incomplete domain expansion. Except this time, there is no way out. Honestly, Yuji having a domain of himself seems like a pipe dream given just how Yuji is as a combatant. Simple domain just may have been the most technical that he's gotten with Jujutsu, and even then he's needed Kusakabe's help to reach that. But maybe there is a chance that Yuji unlocks the peak of Jujutsu and it just comes down to him and Sukuna, the demon god versus the king of curses. In a sense, Yuji has become a quote-unquote Sukuna killer. No other sorcerer is as well equipped to deal with Sukuna as Yuji is in terms of Yuji's particular skill set. Not Maki, not Yuta, certainly not Hikari or anyone else. But Yuji is their best shot at killing the unkillable king of curses. And to do that, Yuji needs to continue to grow during this battle. Even if he dies, he needs to come back and finish this. Things have come to that point. One way or another, Sukuna Kaisen has to come to an end, and Yuji is possibly going to be that conclusion to Sukuna. So with that, my brothers and sisters, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Share what you think about Yuji's growth as a sorcerer and whether or not he is going to surpass the king. This has been Enemy Stand User, and I'll see you awesome guys in the next one. Bye-bye.